The day is finally here. Honor is launching the brand new Honor Magic V3 into the international market. And one of the nicest things that we actually have to see here is that it's actually pushing the envelope to what we've seen in previous generations of devices from Honor. The V series has been their vanguard, and they're not disappointing us with providing us not only a newer version of it, but also a thinner version than what we've seen before, thinner than the Z Fold 6, thinner than the OnePlus Open, and thinner than some of the other options available when it comes down to this form factor. It's almost as thin as an S24 Ultra. This is a phone that is not even a foldable phone, and when this one is closed up, it's about the same thickness. And this is exciting for us when we're looking for devices that don't take more space than a standard device, but when needed can expand to become a full-size internal, like a mini tablet for that all content consumption that we've always wanted. So without further ado, let's go ahead and check out all of the cool new things that the Honor Magic V3 has to offer us, and of course some of the brand new AI features that are baked into the system. This is TK, let's check it out. Like and subscribe, and make sure you hit that bell icon so that you're always notified to whenever we have new videos for you on the channel. This is the Honor Magic V3. This is the box itself. It's a very nice, very thick box. It includes a lot of accessories. Namely, obviously, is the phone. That's going to be one of the things we probably first foremost. There's two versions of this, two colors. This one obviously is the color that I received. They include the 66-watt wire charger here in the box as well. This is going to be the European style, as well as USB-A to USB-C cable to be able to charge up our device. Last but not least, they also include a very nice functional case that includes a kickstand on the back for when you actually were using it. And one of the other things is it also provides us protection to the actual hinge mechanism, the improved mechanism that we have on the brand new V3. What we have in front of us is the V3. It is running Magic OS 8.0.1 on top of Android 14. The model number that I have here is the FCPN 49. This is the global version of the V3, and one of the big things obviously is powered by the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. Now this does support 12 gigs of RAM with 512 gigs of internal storage. That's going to be the default configuration. And one of the nice things about it is it's actually featuring a pretty nice set of cameras that we're going to talk about in just a second. It does support dual SIM as well as eSIM. I've been actually running it with my eSIM provider here in the US, and we've been getting some decent speeds, of course. As far as the experience of what we're getting here is we're getting actually a high resolution internal and external display, providing us a 2376 by 1060 on the exterior display and a 2334 with 2156 experience on the inside. So again, a lot of good experiences going on. August 1st security patch update provided on this as from the latest update that I received from Honor. When it comes down to the actual experience overall, the internal display measures at 7.92 inches. Now when you close it up, it runs pretty much like a regular smartphone. We're going to be getting a 6.43 inch display. This is an OLED panel. Both the internal and the external display are going to run at 120 frames per second. So from 0 to 100%, 120 frames per second. If you swipe from the top left, you're directly taken into your notifications. Swiping to the right, you're taken into the control center, or for the most part, giving you the experience of customizing here everything that you need to do. I do have dark mode turned on. We have wireless projection, which allows us to use a wireless connection to a monitor or a TV that is obviously connected to the same Wi-Fi, and be able to use a desktop mode experience directly on the Magic V3 here. Now, the Magic V3 does support video output, but basically wireless projection is purely wireless, so that now they're no longer doing a wired connection experience. But otherwise, we have mobile data. We've actually able to use SIM as well as eSIM, so dual SIM or an eSIM. And when we go into the settings section, pretty much the same experience you've seen before. One of the biggest things I'll probably say is when we go down a little bit here under the Assistance tab. Now, under the Assistant tab, we have a few new text functionalities or new AI features that were added. Face-to-face translation is something that is brand new, and I love the way they've implemented it here on the Foldable, because it allows us to actually use the external display when you're translating something with another person speaking a different language. Magic Text works also very nice, and Magic Portal also is something very good. Smart Sensing as well as air gestures are also built into this, so there's a lot of nice functionalities. But what I'll probably say is one of my biggest things that I really love about this. Let's say we'll take a look at this picture. Obviously, great picture, looking at it on the internal display. I can open it up. We're looking at it on the bigger canvas. Now, at first glance, when you're looking at this image, it looks absolutely fantastic. But if you zoom in a little bit, you'll notice that there was a gentleman sitting in there. And that's primarily because the ride itself was actually closed. So they have somebody sitting there, and they want to make sure that nobody tries to go beyond the gate. I'm going to go ahead and hit the edit button, and I'm going to be using that new AI feature that we have. I'm going to go ahead and highlight that, turn that on, Using 2 fingers, zoom in and get us as close as possible to the gentleman that is standing right there. And I'm going to go ahead and just circle him. And I'm going to give the AI system the ability of actually going in and removing him from the image. I'm going to give it a second to recognize it. Right there, it recognized the entire body. And then as if it's never existed or it wasn't even there in the first place, it's going to go ahead and erase it and remove it directly out of the image like that, just magically. And you can go ahead and hit the compare button. You can see absolutely fantastic. Now, yes, it created some things in the background, but when I zoom out the image, you would not be able to tell where that person is. So you see right there, he's in there, he's gone, he's in there, he's gone. Very nice. Of course, there is manual selection, the smart selection, all of those things work absolutely great. You can do this on any image that you want. You can do this, obviously, if you've taken this image with another device, you bring it in, you can do that same exact experience. And I love the fact that the device takes great pictures, and we're going to talk about that experience. Now, the next thing that I really like is AI face-to-face translation. This is really nice. So in this example, I was running actually a French and English translation. So what you end up doing essentially is you fold the device. Now, normally this looks absolutely the same, but there's a button here that we click, that little button at the top. We're going to go ahead and start using the translation. So I'm actually going to tilt it a little bit for you guys to be able to see it. Today, we're going to go ahead and test this using a French and English translation put together on a device.
Au jour des 10S39, 8. Nous allons tester cela en utilisant une traduction française et anglaise réunies sur un appareil.
So what you're seeing here essentially is the translation that I'm looking at it from my point of view when I'm using this with somebody, let's say, on the other side. And what it does on the other side is that not only does it speak the translation, but it shows them the actual text. So in case there's a lot of noise around you, they're able to read exactly what it's supposed to be and understand what you're doing. And then, of course, you can switch between the languages that you've selected. And the beautiful thing about it is it runs beautifully nice. It's very good. I'm not sure why it keeps having a little bit of a translation between French and English, but again, for a functional option that is in here and you're able to actually select the different languages so you can jump in, either type it in or even change it at the top here. We have Arabic, Malaysian, Turkish, Russian, Italian, Spanish, German, French, English, and Chinese currently supported. So a lot of good functional option. The only tip that I will say, basically, if you just want to make sure that everything runs correctly, whichever language is on the left side here is the language that's going to display on the external display. So if you want the other person, or let's say you're talking to somebody that speaks like French or any other language, German, you select their language here so that when you're using it and you bend the device and you're looking at the external display, you see their language or their translation into their native language so that they can actually understand. And then when you're ready to talk, you could just manually switch between each one. Very nice, very simple. Now, take that, but then take it into the next level when you go into, let's say, a meeting experience. Now, they have a new functional built-in option here that they put into their Notes app. The Notes app, by default, it's intended to be just for taking notes, but you can actually create notes by using the voice recorder in the app. So what you'll see here essentially is that I recorded a voice note, and I also used the translation functionality from English to Arabic. That was one of the translations, but you're also able to do basically transcription. So I can transcribe into English or I can translate into Arabic. If I just keep the transcription service here, you can actually see that once I'm playing the audio, let's say I'm skipping forward and I'm jumping in here and I start playing, it's actually going to start highlighting where the actual text is sitting. And you'll notice it's right there. I can skip back. If we had multiple speakers, it can identify them. And the beautiful thing about it is you could do this in multiple languages. I actually started recording this in English, had it translated into Arabic, and you can use all the different languages that they have built in here. So you go under the translation, select the option, and again, very much like before, Chinese, French, Italian, English, German, Malay, as well as Arabic. Very nice, very simple, very easy. Between the AI eraser, the functional options that we have in there. Also, one of the really nice things that I love about them is a function that they built in directly into, let's say we'll jump into here real quick. So let's say this is an Instagram post and you want to be able to copy the text that we have in here. So I'm going to go ahead and press and hold on that text right now. You notice that the text becomes selectable. I can swipe it to the right side, put it into either Notes, start an email, go to Facebook, go to Maps if it was an address. But let's say I want to be able to put it directly into the Notes app. It brings in a pop-up menu version of the actual Notes app, writes all the text that I just copied from it, save it in there. I can just say select, it'll save it directly into my Notes app, and I can just go ahead and put it home and it goes away. Very nice, very simple. And the last thing I want to talk to you guys, if you've ever used like an app like CapCut or something like that on the market, their gallery app actually has a very nice feature in here that allows us to actually use something like CapCut, and that's under the Create tab. When you go in there, there's an application called Cut. It's pretty much, very much, I would say, a carbon copy of what essentially is a standard editor that is built in. This is free, this is built in, this is provided to you with the device. All the functional, the translations, the volume increase, the speed change, the cut function, the trim function, even adding text, music, all of this stuff is built in, very easy. And what I really like about it, it also supports 4K export at 60 frames per second. So you are not going to be disappointed. So cut is built in here, face-to-face translation. We have the AI functions in the Notes app. We have the AI functions built into the Gallery app. A lot of nice functional options added into the Magic V3 series here. Now, let's talk a little bit about performance, and as well as, if you decide to, let's say, pick this up and bring it into the US market, how does this work on, let's say, T-Mobile in the LA area? For me, I was able to get 681 down with 111 up. This is actually registering as 5G on T-Mobile in the LA area. Beautiful, very nice, and it works very, very well. When it comes down to Geekbench, as far as just more of a reference information here, if you run this on the device without having the performance mode turned on, it's going to benchmark at 1366 with 5199. This is the 8 Gen 3, but it is a little bit throttled here to give you a great battery experience. When you jump into the basically the full performance of it, 2134 by 6461, that'll be basically the best performance you're able to get on this. And again, this is initiated in gaming mode. You can actually play games on this, obviously, without any problems. Now, jumping into the camera application, this is where it becomes very functional in many ways, because we can use it in a few different ways. If we use it like a standard phone, this is going to work just pretty much the same as you've used it before. We have the a 20 megapixel front-facing camera in here, and there's an additional one on the internal display. You're able to do video, you're able to shoot content with it, as you can imagine. The biggest thing I'll probably say is this is going to be pretty much how most of us use our device. But if you want to be able to get a little bit more, maybe jump into a better experience, you open it up and now you're looking at a bigger canvas, you have a better viewfinder. And if you want to take it even to the next level, you turn on the functional option of turning on the front-facing display. Now this allows us to actually be able to record content on the device using the best cameras, but still being able to see ourselves and frame ourselves in the right orientation. So it works really, really nice, and we're going to definitely do a quick sample of that. But before we get too far, one of the other things obviously I appreciate about this is the ability of seeing that nice little gallery option here. This gives us the ability of kind of seeing our gallery and the camera at the same time. And let's say I do snap a picture, it'll automatically shoot it, put it in here. I'll go ahead and go photo, and I'll go ahead and take a picture. It'll just jump in, put it over there. And I can, of course, if I like it, I can use it, open it up. If I don't, I can just go ahead and delete. And then, of course, go back into normal experience mode. I can swipe back, go back into it, open it up, and again, just customize the experience to the way you want. My favorite way of using this is when I have it in this experience, I turn on the external display, and then we set it down in this configuration where we're using the best cameras on this device, and then still be able to actually just record it without using a tripod. It just becomes its own tripod in many ways. Of course, you can actually still do that if you want to record, like, let's say selfie, like, content like this for TikTok or Instagram. It works just the same. And what I love about it, again, is that entire experience is providing us some of the best images and videos that we're able to get there. We're going to go to Magic Mountain here in Los Angeles and do a quick sample of the front-facing and the rear-facing cameras on the brand new Magic V3.
I know usually when I'm doing the audio test on the cameras on a device, I'm at home or in the backyard or even on location, but it's actually a nice day today. I'm at Magic Mountain here in Southern California. We're doing a quick test of the audio and video on the brand new V3. Now, we're using the front-facing camera when the device is closed. We're going to be testing out the other camera as well, the other front-facing camera internally, and of course the main sensors on the back. And I was able to get away a little bit from some of the music playing around here. We're now using the internal front-facing camera. This is going to be on the bigger display inside. So they're matched camera sensors, so you're using the same experience on both the internal front-facing and the external front-facing. But this should be a good example of what the audio and video is, in case you want to be able to have a bigger canvas when you're looking at yourself with the internal cameras. Now we're going to switch it over to the main sensors on the back and get some of the best footage possible on this device. We've switched to the main, actually we're using the ultra wide, shooting at 4K 60 frames per second to be able to get some of the best footage possible on this device. We're able to shoot in 4K 60 on the main sensor as well as the other sensors, and I think that's one of the flexibilities that we get here. But the fact that I can see myself, I can frame myself, I know exactly where I'm sitting, and of course this is going to give us the best footage possible on the V3. I'm hoping you guys are enjoying it, and not too many noises coming in from the roller coasters around me. But I'm really happy with all the flexibilities and the things that this device can do for us. The last configuration obviously is going to be when we're using the device to prop itself, meaning using it in a tripod mode. I'm actually using still the main sensors on the back of this device. I set it up, and obviously I'm using the ultra wide to make sure that I'm inside of the shot. The best experience obviously would be to use it with the front-facing camera, but this should be a good example of what we're able to do with this device. Of course, as you're seeing some of the footage I'm sharing with you guys from Magic Mountain right here, this is a very flexible, a very capable system with some great cameras on the inside as as well as on the outside. And hopefully you enjoyed this camera tour on the brand new Honor V3.
One of the biggest things that you'll probably notice over there is the clarity of the images that come out from the main sensors on the back. The front-facing cameras are not bad at all for vlogging, and even they're pretty stabilized when you're walking in and vlogging with them as well. But I feel like it's going to give us the best experience there. And if you end up expanding the device and using the external display to frame yourself, using the ultra-wide is actually pretty decent to get a 4K 60 frames per second. As the dual cameras that we have in there, the primary sensor is a 50 megapixel sensor. The ultra-wide is going to be basically where we're jumping into that next level experience, and that's going to give us the ability of jumping into a 40 megapixel camera. The telephoto lens is going to be another 50 megapixel camera. A 20 megapixel here and another 20 megapixel on the front-facing camera is going to kind of corner it for us and give us the ability of shooting 4K 60 across almost all of the sensors that we have in here. But let's go ahead and do a quick sample of the audio here on the speakers that we have. One of the things that Honor wanted to point out specifically here is that they have a balanced stereo speaker experience, meaning the speakers on the top and the speakers on the bottom are providing the same level of output of audio, so it's going to be sounding like as if you're listening to two separate speakers, where in most devices, when we're looking at them in that manner, typically the bottom firing speaker gets more of a boost at performance, because typically that's the one facing us when we're holding the phone, and the top earpiece or the top speaker typically doesn't get as much love. One thing to keep in mind, both speakers are firing sideways. They're not firing basically towards us. So just be aware that if you're holding your device this way, you're definitely going to get the best experience.
Jack it up.
Now, definitely not going to be the loudest speakers I've heard on the market, but definitely very nice, very bassy, very pronounced. There's no tinging in there, even though we're playing at 100%. And I will say this, that when you're playing games, it actually does get a little bit louder. So with this, with being our Alex Scrindo Jumbo by NCS release, the actual performance here is pretty decent, and I liked what I'm seeing here. One thing I will say though, overall, just keep in mind is your best performance is going to be obviously in a much, I'll say basically not as loud of an environment, but if you are going to need to be able to play games, you can play them directly on the internal display up to 120 frames per second, or use the external display as is typically with most devices that we use. Now, as far as playing games, I tested it with PUBG, Call of Duty Mobile, and of course, I'll go ahead and just reduce the volume ever so slightly just to make sure that it does not get too loud for us. The experience itself will marry on the device or the display that you're using. Right now we're using it on the external display, but if let's say I want to be able to use it on the internal display, we open up the device and you'll notice right there, it automatically reformats to that format itself. And I can bring it back and I'll give it a second to reorganize itself. Swiping from the top left here takes us directly into basically what I would call is their game launcher. There's a performance mode or game mode or balance mode. You have multi-touch prevention, screen recording settings, rotation clock configuration option, as well as a pop-up menu here for some of the most recent applications that you've used. Obviously, the best performance is going to be in game mode, and you're not going to be disappointed. Now, what we were seeing here is a couple of different samples. Call of Duty Mobile playing on the internal as well as the external display. Obviously, when you're using it with the internal display, it's going to be more of a square format. When you're using it on the external display, it'll be closer to that 16:9 aspect ratio that we're used to seeing. Other than that, I think overall what you're looking at here is a very capable, I will basically say it's an ecosystem of functional options in here. The cameras that we have in here, I feel like the main sensors on the back are going to perform the best. I feel like they're getting the best processing. We have a few options as well as some basically, I would say creative movie features that we have in there, as well as the ability of creating different, I would call them basically image looks on there. And the other thing that we also have in there is, again, as I mentioned, is a full-fledged editor to be able to create content from it. Either be in standard, like let's say 16:9 aspect ratio or 9:16 aspect ratio for let's say TikToks or so on. And I love the fact that it has all the features that I typically look for in, let's say, CapCut. Now, CapCut is not a free application. Obviously, you either have it as ad supported or you go for their paid version. This one is built in. You don't have to worry about adding anything else. Top that off with the fact that you can connect it to an external monitor, and this becomes a little mini PC on the go that you can carry with you. Now, I will say that the V3 does support a pen input. Unfortunately, I don't have that. It does not come included in the box. Honor is releasing a special edition pen that's going to work with it. And hopefully when we do get our hands on that, I'll definitely give you guys an update on how does that work and what are the functional options that we have in there. The displays that we have in here are very nice. They get pretty decently bright, as well as the fact that they get very nice up to 120 Hertz refresh rate, depending on what you're trying to play. Again, from browsing, content creation, content consumption, it's not going to have any problems. The fact that we have 12 gigs of RAM and of course 512 gigs of internal storage means it's going to be able to handle almost anything that you're able to throw at it. The images that I'm sharing with you guys right now are from being able to use it here around LA area. And I'm going to try to include some of those images as well from Berlin, where this device is going to be launched. I think my biggest thing I'll probably say with this device is I see a lot of improvements over the years. I love the mechanism and the hinge that we have on this device. And the fact that it literally makes any other foldable on the market right now a thicker device than what it really was. Although in their own right way, they were an improvement over last year's generation. Honor just said basically, hold my beer, and they just went to the next level. And they said, look, we're just gonna make this as thick as a standard phone, because I think that's the new standard where we actually can use this device when it's closed and not feel that it's a foldable phone. Like, this is crazy. I've actually had a few people, when I opened it up, they're like, wait a minute, this phone opens? And that's how much the improvement and the shock value was there. The test that I was showing you guys at the beginning of the video, where I was putting a piece of paper there, I just wanted to show you how strong the mechanism what we have here on the hinge, and how well that it closes on itself, so that it relies, even a piece of paper can actually hold it throughout of there. The biggest thing I'll probably say is you can't even see through it. That's one of the nice things about it. But when you open it up, you could probably see, like, right there, it almost disappears. Like, the camera can't even focus on it. So it really runs very nicely. I don't really see that there's much of a concern or issue on this. Obviously, it's running the latest software, the latest hardware. It's providing us a lot of improvements over last year. It works great in the LA area, so if you have T-Mobile, you're not going to have any problems. It has a charger included in the box. It includes a really nice case for it, nice, same color, same, a really nice material case for it that not only protects it, but it protects all the sides. And all of that is included in the same package. I do want to say thank you very much to Honor for allowing me to check out the Honor Magic V3. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. This is a great device, a lot of great features, and it's only going to get better. And it's, well, I'll say this, it's running the latest and greatest everything. And it actually even has the latest and greatest hardware that no other manufacturer is able to hit now. Maybe in the future, they'll be able to make something this thin. But at this point, the thinness of this device and the functional options that we have in here makes this unbeatable. Again, thank you very much for the support. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.